It's no secret that sexy food is the best way to a person's heart, and obviously to the bedroom too. So today, I'm not only going to show you how to create impressive food, I'm also going to show you what not to do. Cooking, plating, and a little sketch comedy with me, Chef Paul, right here on FoodStyles. We'll start with a seductive appetizer of crispy fried oysters with spicy mayo and chive. Next, a beautiful entree of perfectly cooked steak with a crimson romesco sauce and charred peppers and onions. And for dessert, a light mocha meringue torte with cool carbonated strawberries that will impress any special guest. So a lot of people find the texture of oysters to be a little bit off-putting, so I find that by frying them crispy and serving them on the half shell, it's a much more universally appealing way to present them. And it's the way that I came to love them.
Yeah, I really just don't think that oysters are my thing.
You're gonna love it. They're sweet and salty and soft and...
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, let's get you a big plump one. That one.
I honestly just don't think it's even my type of thing.
Come here. You want some of this red sauce? It's really good too. Okay,
no.
come on. Come on. Here.
Ow, ow,
Oh, it slid right in. I've been eyeing this one for a while.
Okay.
Oh. You like seafood though, right?
I eat shrimp, but I...
Seafood.
Oh.
Oh.
There it goes again.
So oysters really can be delicious served raw on the half shell, but for a first timer, this is a much nicer way to present it. So what we have here are 6 Malpec oysters. I had them shucked for me at the fish market, and I asked to hold the shells for presentation. About a cup of dehydrated potato flakes or instant mashed potatoes seasoned with salt and pepper, and 1 egg that's just slightly beaten. So what we're going to do is, with a clean spoon, we're going to dip the oysters into the potato flakes, about 3 at a time, and then using a dry spoon, coat them lightly with the flakes. Now into the beaten egg, and using the wet spoon, coat them, and back into the potato. Alright, and each time that you dip these into the potato, make sure that you're pressing down so they get a nice even crust. Okay, so over here we have about a cup of canola oil that we've heated to about 350 degrees. If you don't have a thermometer that you can measure it with, there's a good tip for sort of seeing if your oil is where you want it to be. Throw a little piece of the batter in, and you can see a nice fry like this, you're good to go. Because essentially, we're just trying to get a crust on the outside. This doesn't have to be cooked all the way through. I'd say do about 3 at a time. Again, these don't need to be served hot, so you could fry these even 15 or 20 minutes before you want to serve them. And when they have a nice golden brown crust, just move them to a plate with a little bit of paper towel to soak up any dripping grease. So, to accompany our crispy oysters, we're going to make a very simple, tangy, spicy mayo. So I have here about 1/3 cup of regular mayonnaise, a teaspoon of sriracha sauce, and I'm going to squeeze into that about a teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. Just using my hands to catch any seeds. Just stir that up, and that's it. Okay, so here's a little trick. It's not the most delicious looking thing, but take a regular Ziploc bag, press it into a cup, and this way you can easily just pour your mayo right into it. And you can do this a day or even a couple of days ahead of time or an hour before, and then keep it in the fridge. So when it comes time to plate, you have a little piping bag, you snip the tip, and you will pipe a little bit into each one. Okay, so now we're ready to go. And we have our half shells washed and ready for presentation. So we're gonna just cut the tip off of this bag. Just pipe a dollop into each prepared half shell. So just top each one with a fried oyster. Really simple. Just because I feel inspired, a little bit on top. Now we're just gonna garnish with a little bit of fresh chive for color. Make sure some gets into the shell around. Looks really pretty. And there you go. So if you're looking to enamor somebody with food, you want your food to look as sexy as you want the mood to be. So with that in mind, don't half-ass your presentation.
I'm so happy you're finally able to come over. It's been a long time since I've had somebody in the house. I know I promised surf and turf, but the day just got away from me and I had to make something a little more simple. That's okay, right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Great. Mom Spider Dogs.
What is this?
Oh, well, this is a hot dog. I just put it in the microwave and it curled out like a gnarly spider. And this is just oatmeal that I also put in the microwave. You just let it dry out and it looks like an egg sac, like a spider egg sac. I was into arachnids when I was a kid, so I had them everywhere. We'll dig in. Oh, actually, not yet. 1 second. Hold on. Attendez. Here come the spider babies. I usually eat the sack first. Usually.
We're going to be making a grilled flank steak with a crimson smoky romesco sauce. Essentially, it's just a roasted red pepper sauce with lots of smoky and charred flavors. So for this dish, we have about 3 pounds of local flank steak that we've let come to room temperature. We have 2 large red bell peppers that we've cut into nice pretty chunks for presentation, 1 large red onion cut into large wedges, half of which we'll use for the sauce and the other half for the plating. For the sauce, we have 1 clove of grated garlic, a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar, a 1/2 cup of slivered almonds, 1.5 cups of roasted red peppers, or about 1 standard jar, 1 piece of stale bread that we've charred a little bit, and our spice mix, the details for which you can find in the link below. So for this recipe, we're gonna start by making the sauce. We've got a cast iron pan here. It's being heated over about medium heat, and right before it gets too hot, we wanna toast our almond slivers. This won't take long, you just wanna heat them to release some of the oils. It'll give a nice nutty flavor to our sauce. So you obviously wanna keep these almonds moving so they don't burn, but you can already see that they're getting some nice color. They don't need to be fully brown, just heat it up and you can really smell the aroma. So now, what we're gonna do is take a little towel and take these right into our blender. They can just chill there until we're ready to make the sauce. Now what we're going to do is we're going to dry sear our onions and our peppers. So what that means is just a really, really hot pan, and we'll get a nice blister going on this onion here. So we'll do them separately, just not to crowd the pan. At this point, there's no such thing as too hot. You want to break the onion up and make sure that it's getting that direct heat so it'll start to blister and char. This is sort of the best way to get that sort of grilled vegetable flavor inside. So it's great for the winter time, or when you're not using the grill. Our onions are just about ready, and now as you can see, they've got a beautiful sort of blistered char on them. And they're not overly cooked, they're not completely limp. They've got a little bit of body and bite to them, so that's exactly where we want them. So now, right out of this pan, we're gonna put half into our blender with our toasted nuts, and the rest over here into this bowl that they came from. The pan goes right back on the same dry heat. Now, that means there's no oil, there's no butter or fat in this pan, and we're gonna do the exact same thing with our peppers. With this, you end up with that sort of pepper and onion flavor that you remember from shish kebabs at barbecues. We're also gonna add a little bit of salt, and a little salt over here, just to these onions as well. All right, so now after about, maybe 5 minutes of really high dry heat, you can see we've got really nice char on these peppers, and again, they've still got some bite, they're not completely limp, so now's the time when we want to take these back out, and again, right back into that same bowl that they came from. All right. So now all I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of oil onto our pieces of flank steak that we've let come up to room temperature, and we're just going to rinse our hands, season them, and get them in the pan. So when you're seasoning a steak, you definitely want to make sure that you're giving enough salt. Keep in mind that about 30% of that seasoning is coming out in the pan, and it's going to stay there. So when you think you've seasoned enough, season a little bit more, okay? We have our pan on high. Still with a lot of residual heat from roasting the vegetables before. And we're gonna go straight into the pan. And you should hear a really nice sizzle. Give it a nice push. And that's it. Now you're just gonna leave that there for about 4 minutes to get a good char. Okay, and you'll know it's time to flip when the steak just releases itself from the pan and you've got a nice sear on the outside. So now, our steak's been cooking for about 8 minutes, 4 minutes per side. If it needs a little more sear, give it another couple of flips, 15 seconds or so per side until you got a nice brown sear. Onto some tin foil on a plate that's sitting nearby. And now we're gonna season it with a little bit of black pepper. You wanna season with pepper at the end because it's actually been proven that the pepper will burn in the pan and you'll lose some of its nice aroma. So, pepper on both sides and rest it. So, we're gonna tightly wrap it up. Nice and tight. And a kitchen towel over top. Now don't touch that for 15 minutes. Okay, so now it's time to make our romesco sauce. This is my favorite part. So in the blender, we already have our half a charred red onion and our half a cup of toasted almonds. And to that, I'm gonna add our 2 pieces of charred bread. I'm gonna add our cup and a half of roasted red peppers, our red wine vinegar. You could also use sherry vinegar for this. Our 1 clove of chopped garlic, and our spice mix. Now one thing I should mention is that you might need a little bit of room temperature water depending on, the bread and the types of peppers you get. So I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup. So I've let this go for about 4 or 5 minutes. Now remember, everybody's blender is different, so depending on the strength of your blender, you might need to do it a little bit less, a little bit more. You might need to add a little bit more oil. Don't be afraid to sort of play with the recipe until you get the right consistency, and always remember to adjust your seasoning and taste as you're going along. So we're just going to get this out of here and into a bowl. Okay, so now we're done our sauce, but I'm gonna show you how to take it one step further, if you want to. So this is the sauce that came right out of the blender here. It's very good, it's delicious, it's got all the right flavors, but it is a little bit thick. So if you do want to smooth it out, one technique you can use is just whisking it through a fine mesh sieve, even one as small as this. What that does is it'll give you this really rich, smooth texture, and it just sort of takes it one step further. So that's optional. If you want to do that, great. If you don't, then you could just use this sauce the way it is. So our steak is rested and we're ready to put our dish together. Now I'm gonna be slicing against the grain, as you can see. You can see the grain on a flank steak is quite obvious, and so you wanna be getting nice thin strips sort of against that grain. And you can see that with a longer knife, it is quite a bit easier to do. Now, one thing I should mention is you don't need to serve this dish piping hot. You've let this steak rest. I mean, everything is really quite delicious at room temperature, so you could just save yourself the fuss and say that it's a room temperature dish. Otherwise, you can heat up your steak in a low oven, maybe 200 degrees, just for a few minutes, and you can heat up your sauce in the microwave or on the stovetop. That's up to you. The key to a really pretty dish is layering. So it sounds a lot more complicated than it is, but I'm gonna show you one thing. One way to present a sauce that's really pretty and impressive, okay? You're gonna take a spoonful of your sauce, a large one, make a sort of a little dollop or almost like a puddle on the one side. And now this barely takes any practice. You put your spoon into it and just quickly make a motion across the plate. You see this in a lot of restaurants, and some people call it a scratch. It's a really nice way to sort of start off your dish. Next, we're gonna take our flank steak, maybe 3 or 4 strips, and sort of layer them so that we can fan the meat. Now you want to go on one side so you can make sort of a nice pile like that, and it looks very pretty. And now we're going to incorporate our charred vegetables. So just pick out some nice big pieces, start just layering them all over. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It'll just look pretty once it's got lots of layers and levels, lots of different colors. You want to get some of the really nice little charred pieces in there. And it's really as simple as that. Now you have a light, pretty, presentable dish that would really impress any guest. Okay, so now we're gonna make dessert, and it's obviously the most crucial point in this meal because it's with dessert that you can easily make your guests feel bloated, uncomfortable, and let's face it, not very sexy. So, we're gonna make a chocolate dessert, of course, featuring chocolate in two ways, but in a sort of unique way. Layers of crispy meringue, dollops of mocha cream, topped with chocolate shavings and finished with an impressive garnish. Carbonated, or as I like to call them, sparkling strawberries that I'm gonna teach you how to make in 2 simple steps.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm so full.
Yep.
You finished soon or
Gotten there.
like your 6th piece of cake?
Well, I don't know. We don't have that every day.
What about if we go upstairs?
That sounds cool, baby, but why don't we just get weird on the couch first?
Okay, let's go. Seriously, get Mark, get up. Wait up. Oh, the smell of butter chicken and chocolate just does not go very
I
well.
thought it was Asian.
No, it's just butter chicken.
Is this couch smaller than usual?
Well, you didn't want to go upstairs.
Let me just get in a bit more comfortable
Hey,
spot.
but what is
maybe.
more comfortable? You want to go there? Maybe you should just try to sit.
Wait,
it's
I
nothing
want to
to
make
do.
you feel beautiful.
I know, I do. It feels so. I love you. It's nice.
Hey, something sensual.
Yeah.
This is a completely make-ahead dessert. It's the kind of thing you want because it won't take you away from your guest for more than a minute or two. You start even the day before by making your meringue. What you're gonna need is a stand mixer or a hand mixer like this, which I'm sure everybody's mom has, or you could just use a whisk and a little bit of elbow grease. But for this demonstration, I'm gonna be using a stand mixer. So, into the stand mixer, I'm going to add 1 egg white that I've let come to room temperature, so just for about an hour and a half. So right in there. And I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of icing sugar and a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. That just helps with stabilizing the meringue. It's as simple as this. Lock it into place, start it on low to just mix a little bit. All right. So you're looking for stiff, glossy peaks, and that's about it. The rest is just oven work. So what I'm doing now is I'm just spreading out my meringue mixture onto my parchment lined baking sheet, and we're going for about 1 centimeter thickness. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be drying it at a really low temperature. All right, and that's it. And now right into a 200-degree oven for 2 hours. Okay, so now we're gonna make the mocha whipped cream to layer into our meringue dessert. It's 4 simple ingredients. It's a 1/2 cup of whipping cream, a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, a 1/2 teaspoon of espresso powder or instant coffee. In this case, I'm using hazelnut instant coffee, and 1 teaspoon of good quality cocoa powder. So, simple as this. Into again, our stand mixer, or you could use a hand mixer, or you can whisk it yourself. All your ingredients. And we're gonna start it on low again so we don't get a cloud forming. All right, simple as that. Maybe 2 minutes, we have our mocha whipped cream and we're almost ready to plate our dessert. Next, I'm gonna show you how to make the simplest, most impressive garnish, carbonated strawberries, and it's this easy. I'm just taking some strawberries. Use the reddest ones you can find. The less ripe they are, the less they will carbonate. And I'm just slicing them into nice sort of, maybe 3 millimeter thickness strips. So I have my mason jar. It's filled to the top with these sliced strawberries, and all we're gonna do is pour fresh club soda right over top. You can also use champagne for this, which gives you a nice berry scented champagne toward the end, almost right to the top. And the idea is we want to put this under pressure. So seal it, and now give it a slight shake. You'll feel at the top that there's a lot of pressure building up in there, and now wait 5 minutes. Okay, so now we've completed all our components and we're ready to put this awesome dessert together. Now, watch how fast this happens. We're just removing these strawberries. You only need a few for garnish. We're just gonna dry them slightly on a piece of paper towel. All right, and now our mocha whipped cream, just a little dollop, doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna take one of the larger pieces of meringue, another dollop. Not too much because you want there to be a good ratio and you want many layers. So another layer. And we're getting smaller as we go to the top. So pick the most interesting looking pieces. All right. Now we're just gonna shave a little bit of this chocolate over top. Now you can use a vegetable peeler. I'm just using a paring knife here, just a little bit off the side. Make some cool shapes. More just a garnish than anything else. We're gonna finish with a few of these carbonated strawberries, just sort of accenting the plate, adding a little bit of color and sort of just all around. All right, and that's the finished dessert. So here's my advice to you. Your cooking can be one of your best tools for dating, if you take the time to do it properly and show a little finesse. Skip the heavy, starchy comfort foods, focus on flavors and colors, and put a little work into it. Good luck.